Bob Weir, the legendary guitarist who helped shape the sound of one of the most iconic rock bands in history, the Grateful Dead, has passed away at 78. But behind the music and the fame, there's a story of resilience, creativity, and a life that changed American music forever. Today we're diving deep into the life, legacy, and untold stories of the man who kept the Dead alive, even through decades of chaos, loss, and transformation. You won't believe some of the moments that defined him, and the shocking details of his final days. Bob Weir wasn't just a guitarist. He was a pioneer, a storyteller, and a voice that helped define a generation. From the chaotic energy of the San Francisco music scene in the 1960s to global stages filled with Deadheads, Weir's journey is as extraordinary as it is inspiring. In this video, we'll uncover the full story of his life, the highs and lows, the music that changed the world, and the personal battles he faced away from the spotlight. You'll learn about his early days forming the Grateful Dead with Jerry Garcia, the challenges of keeping a legendary band together for over 6 decades, and the private moments that reveal who Bob really was beyond the stage. By the end, you'll see why his influence goes far beyond music, and why his passing leaves a mark that will be felt for generations. Stay with us, because some of the stories we're about to share are shocking, unexpected, and will make you see Bob Weir in a whole new light. Bob Weir was born on October 16, 1947, in San Francisco, California, a city that would later become synonymous with counterculture, psychedelic music, and the iconic Grateful Dead. But in those early years, Bob's world was far from the bright stage lights and screaming crowds. He grew up in a family that valued creativity, yet he faced his share of challenges as a young boy. Music became his sanctuary, a way to express himself and connect with a world he was still trying to understand. As a teenager, Bob discovered the guitar, and it quickly became more than a hobby. He spent hours practicing, not just to play songs, but to explore the emotional depth that music could carry. By the mid-1960s, the San Francisco music scene was exploding with new sounds: folk, blues, rock, and the early stirrings of what would become psychedelic music. It was a time of experimentation, rebellion, and cultural upheaval, and Bob was right in the middle of it. He met Jerry Garcia, a fellow guitarist and visionary, and their connection was immediate. The two shared a love for improvisation and a desire to create music that went beyond the conventional. This partnership would eventually lay the foundation for the Grateful Dead, a band that would not only define a generation but change the very landscape of American music. But it wasn't all easy. Bob and his friends faced skepticism from established musicians, financial struggles, and the uncertainty of pursuing a dream that seemed bigger than life itself. Imagine being a teenager, knowing that the choices you make now could either lead to legendary success or fade into obscurity. And for Bob, that crossroads came sooner than most. By the late 1960s, the San Francisco music scene was ready to explode, and Bob Weir was about to step onto the stage that would make him immortal. But little did he know, the road ahead would be filled with both breathtaking triumphs and heartbreaking losses. And here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. The first major challenge that tested not just his talent, but his very resolve as a musician, was about to hit, shaking the foundations of what the Grateful Dead would become. By the mid-1960s, San Francisco was alive with a revolutionary spirit. Artists, musicians, and free thinkers were converging in neighborhoods like Haight-Ashbury, creating a cultural explosion that would define an era. It was in this fertile ground that Bob Weir, along with Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, Bill Kreutzmann, and a few other talented musicians, began experimenting with a sound that would become nothing short of legendary. Initially, the group performed under names like the Warlocks, but they quickly realized that their music and the movement they were part of needed a name that reflected their unconventional style and communal approach. Thus, the Grateful Dead was born, a name as enigmatic and bold as the music they played. Bob's role in the band was unique. While Jerry Garcia often took the spotlight as the lead guitarist and face of the band, Bob brought a rhythm and versatility that became the backbone of their sound. His guitar work wasn't flashy in the traditional sense. It was intricate, adaptive, and designed to complement the improvisational magic that made the Grateful Dead stand out from every other band of the time. The band's early years were a mix of intense creativity and chaotic unpredictability. They played marathon shows that blurred the lines between performer and audience, experimenting with extended jams that could last 20, 30, or even 45 minutes. Audiences were mesmerized. Deadheads began forming, loyal fans who would follow the band for years, sometimes traveling across the country just to experience a single performance. But success didn't come easy. Touring was grueling, financial pressures were constant, and the band was navigating the highs and lows of a counterculture lifestyle, drug experimentation, personal conflicts, and the pressure to stay relevant in a fast-changing music scene. Despite the challenges, Bob's dedication never wavered. He became not only a musician but a leader, a stabilizing force who could steer the band through both creative breakthroughs and internal chaos. And yet, behind the scenes, tensions were growing. Jerry Garcia's increasing dependence on substances, the strain of constant touring, and the pressure to innovate musically were creating cracks in what seemed like an unbreakable partnership. Bob faced a choice that would define his career: step back and protect himself, or step forward and shoulder the responsibility of keeping the Grateful Dead together. It was a decision that would test his resilience in ways few could imagine, and it would set the stage for some of the band's most iconic and sometimes tumultuous years. But just when it seemed like the Grateful Dead had found their rhythm and a devoted fan base, fate had other plans. A moment would soon arrive that would challenge everything Bob believed about friendship, loyalty, and the true cost of fame, forever changing the trajectory of the band. As the 1960s gave way to the 1970s, the Grateful Dead were no longer just a local sensation. They were becoming a national phenomenon. And at the heart of that rise was Bob Weir, whose inventive rhythm guitar and distinctive vocals helped shape the band's signature sound. Unlike many rock musicians who followed rigid song structures, Bob thrived on improvisation. He was fearless, willing to twist melodies, experiment with time signatures, and create unexpected harmonies that became the backbone of the Dead's extended jams. Some of Bob's most notable contributions came from his songwriting. Tracks like Truckin' and Sugar Magnolia weren't just hits, they were anthems that captured the spirit of a generation, blending folk, blues, country, and rock into a sound that was uniquely Grateful Dead. He also pushed the boundaries of live performance, often guiding improvisational sections that could stretch for over an hour, transforming concerts into immersive experiences where no two shows were ever the same. It wasn't just about music, it was about connection. Bob had a rare ability to read the energy of the crowd and respond in real time, creating a dialogue between the stage and the audience. Deadheads didn't just watch the Grateful Dead, they felt every note, every rhythm, every emotional turn. And Bob was a key architect of that magic. Yet, behind the brilliance, there was struggle. The pressure to constantly innovate weighed heavily on the band. Touring schedules were brutal, sometimes hundreds of shows a year, and personal lives were often sacrificed for the music. Substance abuse, particularly within the band, created tension and uncertainty. Jerry Garcia's struggles were well known, but Bob often had to balance supporting his friend with protecting the music and the band's legacy. It was a delicate, exhausting dance, one that tested his patience, leadership, and even his health. Despite these challenges, Bob's commitment to his art never wavered. He became known not only as a musician but as a cultural icon, someone who embodied the spirit of freedom, creativity, and relentless passion. His influence reached far beyond the Grateful Dead, inspiring countless musicians across genres to embrace improvisation, experimentation, and authenticity in their own work. And yet, for all the acclaim and success, a shadow loomed over Bob's journey. The very lifestyle that fueled the band's creativity also came with consequences: health issues, personal losses, and the realization that nothing lasts forever. Just when the Grateful Dead seemed unstoppable, life was preparing a test that would challenge Bob in ways no stage or audience ever could. Behind the music and the fame, Bob Weir was a man with a private world filled with family, love, and personal struggles that few fans ever saw. He was a devoted father, and his daughter, Chloe Weir, often described him as a guiding force in her life. His family remembered him not just as a legendary musician, but as someone who valued kindness, creativity, and the simple joys of life. Quiet moments at home, sharing stories, and nurturing those closest to him. But life wasn't always gentle. Bob faced a series of challenges that tested him beyond the stage. Years of relentless touring, high-pressure performances, and a rock and roll lifestyle took a toll on his body. In July of the previous year, Bob was diagnosed with cancer, and he later succumbed to underlying lung issues, passing away peacefully surrounded by loved ones. His death, announced by Chloe on Instagram, reminded fans worldwide that even legends are human, vulnerable to the same fragility we all face. Yet even in his final days, Bob's spirit remained unbroken. Chloe's statement reflected a philosophy that had guided him all his life. Music, love, and resilience could transcend loss. "There is no final curtain here, not really," she wrote, "only the sense of someone setting off again." It's a sentiment that perfectly captures the essence of Bob Weir, a man whose influence will never truly fade, whose music continues to inspire, and whose life reminds us that passion, creativity, and courage leave a lasting imprint on the world. Bob's legacy isn't just in the songs he wrote or the performances he gave, it's in the culture he helped shape. From the Deadhead community that continues to thrive decades after the band's formation, to musicians who cite his improvisational genius as an influence, Bob's impact is immeasurable. He taught us that music isn't just entertainment, it's connection, storytelling, and a journey that can transform lives. So today, as fans mourn the loss of Bob Weir, they also celebrate a life lived boldly, creatively, and with an open heart. His story is a reminder that legends aren't defined solely by fame. They're defined by the ways they touch the lives of others, the risks they take, and the courage they show in the face of life's greatest challenges. Bob Weir may have left this world at 78, but his music, his influence, and his spirit will echo forever. And as we reflect on his life, there's one truth that resonates louder than any song. Even legends face mortality, but the mark they leave behind, like Bob's, remains eternal. If you've been inspired by Bob's life and legacy, don't forget to honor him by sharing this video, commenting your favorite Bob Weir moment, and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the lives of legendary figures. The music lives on, and so does his story. Hang it up, see what tomorrow brings, and keep the spirit alive.